Hey everybody, this is Mike Raftery from SCM Connections. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to go through some of the best features and even some of the good features in 2105, the latest and greatest IBP release. We have here Connor and Levi, some of the great IBP experts, part of the SCM Connections team. They're going to be leading us through in a few minutes. Once we get started, we'll give everybody about 2 or 3 minutes between meetings before we kick it off. But you're in the right place if you're here. And Connor, are you going to be presenting the deck, or is Levi?
Yeah, I'll start presenting, and then I believe I'm going to pass it to Levi about halfway through.
Okay. And I'm going to do the kickoff then before we do that.
Okay, thanks.
So just a couple logistics here for everybody before we get started. We have muted everybody because it is actually a fairly large audience today. So if you do have questions, or if you want to go deeper on a topic, please feel free to do so. You'll see in the GoToWebinar session here, there's going to be a question segment. I think, yeah, questions. So go ahead and use that, or raise your hand. And when you do that, we'll be able to see it. And Sabrina will help sort of mediate the questions and answers for everybody. And then Levi and Connor will answer as best as they absolutely can from that. So use that as you would any Q&A. I don't know, do we really need to do training on webinars anymore? I think.
I don't think so.
I think it's pretty well baked at this point.
Yep.
If you do need training, well, lucky for you, I guess. So we'll go ahead and give just 2 more minutes here. And then we got a couple of presenters, and I'll make you guys a presenter here in a minute. So you should be able to see my screen. It looks like it. And like I said, what time is it now? I usually give just 3 minutes. People tend to, log into these things slowly, or they have to download something or whatever. But I still see the attendees going up, so we'll wait for that to get started here, which is great. I'm glad that people are all excited. All right, so I'm going to start recording. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. I started the recording here for everybody. So thanks everybody for joining this session. Couple things I wanted to get through. That you are in the right session. This is the best features of 2105. So this is going to be a session on the overall quarterly upgrades and what's coming, and our take on the best features that are here. One thing I wanted to do for those who aren't familiar with SCM Connections is show how these quarterly upgrades are managed before we get into the details. So we have a group of our consultants here focusing purely on IBP and IBP upgrades, and it's a service that we provide to help people manage these upgrades. So after it's live, after your project team is open, a lot of times these things, they come up every quarter, and it can be a bit of a burden. So what we do is make sure that as your post-project support, most people think of like your help desk as needing support, or even your business support, such as forecast accuracy, but this quarterly upgrade process is something you really do need to account for in your overall project support plan, really, because it is something that will need to be handled. In our experience, clients that ignore them do so at their own peril. Some of the side effects that'll come out are either activation failures if you don't keep up on some of the activation logs, feature inconsistencies, or even retirement of features in the Fiori app or even certain algorithms. So it's important for you to attend those SAP webinars. I can't overstate that enough. And do those quarterly upgrades as regularly as possible. And again, that's why we offer this service to do that, to make sure that we do all these sort of in bulk, so we know what the issues are, we know how to resolve them, and it helps you to keep up to date and consistent and able to use the latest and greatest features in your IBP platform. So like I said, most people think of the help desk support or the business support, but we also, in our project support proposals that we work with our clients for, also consider the quarterly upgrades, because that is a very key element in how you maintain the overall health of your system. So that's our little plug for why this is important to understand, and I'm glad that so many people are interested in this, because it really does show that it's a critical element and people are appreciating the need for such elements. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Connor Cook. I'm going to make you the presenter, Mr. Connor Cook.
Thanks, Mike.
To start walking through the features of 2105.
Sure. Can everybody see my screen right now? I'm sharing a PowerPoint presentation.
Yep, see it.
All right, great. Hello, everybody. My name is Connor Cook. I'm a supply chain consultant here at SCM Connections, and I'm also a part of that quarterly upgrade team that Mike was talking about. So I'm happy to be here today with you and happy to present some of my personal favorite features. And then my colleague Levi Mart is also going to present some of his favorites. So this will be a mix of a PowerPoint and a mix of showing you in the Fiori applications how you'd configure these things, or even taking a look at the Excel user interface. So let's kick it off. So the first thing I wanted to note for you guys is the normalization migration that SAP is really pushing right now. They have created a new normalized data model that all client systems are going to have to be upgraded to by the end of the year in order to be able to function properly. And they've already started making it so that some of these new features that are coming out in this release, and some of them that I'm talking about today, are only supported if your system has been upgraded to this normalized data model. If you're unsure if your IBP system is on the normalized data model, they're making it nice and easy for you to check. With this new release, if you check the General tab in your model configuration for your planning area, there will be a new little blurb, right next to where it says, your status, if it's active or inactive or last edited. Right next to that, there will be another little blurb that says, is it normalized? And it'll just be a yes or no. And hopefully it's yes, but if it's not, you can follow some steps from SAP to get that migrated to the new normalized data model. So I just wanted to put that out there so people are aware that that's a change that's kind of been brewing for a bit, and they're continuing to ramp up. All right. The first upgrade that I wanted to talk about today was the Manage Editability Horizons app that SAP has just released. So this feature is a great way for you to control when key figures are going to be able to be edited, in what time buckets they can be edited by planners. So here's the slide that I kind of stole from the SAP presentation when they released it. But just to touch on the important parts, you can see that you can change the different horizons that users can edit based on their permission filters, and you can also use different attributes to define those editability horizons. Whereas in the past it was set by a specific frozen horizon, now it's a bit more flexible, and you can have it be incorporated in a variety of different ways to configure it. So I'll jump over to the Fiori application to show you a sample of how you might configure this. So here we are. There's a new application called Editability Horizon for key figures. I've already started kind of creating this one just so we have some stuff to work off of. But as you can see, I named it Global Demand Planner Frozen Horizon, and I pulled in the key figure that we want to limit the global demand plan quantities for S&OP. Now, when you come down here to the actual horizon part, there are two different ways that you can set this. You can do it using a fixed rule, in which is just, from this period to this period, I want it to be editable or not editable, depending on how you select restricted or unrestricted.
Really quick, Connor, it looks like we have a question.
Sure.
So it says, I just logged into SAP IBP. Where is the general tab to check for normalized data, Excel or Web UI?
It is in the Web UI. Here, I'll show you really quick. It's a great question. So if you come into the web UI and you're in the Fiori landing page, you want to go into the Planning Areas Model Configuration app. When you open that, you pick your planning area that you want to check the status of. And we're on the General tab right here, and you can see for information, we have this little normalized blurb, and it says yes right here. So this may not appear for all of your systems yet. If you're working in a development system, this should have been upgraded about a week and a half ago, so you would be able to see it. If you're looking in your production system, that is scheduled to be upgraded this weekend. So this little blurb might not be there yet, but you can rest assured that you'll be able to check hopefully by Monday, just to make sure that you're normalized. But that's a great question. Thanks for pushing me to clarify that one. So jumping back to the editability horizon. So I think I went over the fixed rules. Something that's unique about it, or I guess an upgrade, is that you can now have the fixed rule change the day that it starts. So we could have, you could edit it for the next coming 2 months, but for whatever reason, if you want to freeze it for 3 months out there, you can do that. Whereas in the past, it was, much more rigid on when you could start and stop. But what I think is probably the most impressive, or the best part of this upgrade is the new dynamic rule option, in which you can choose to define your frozen horizon based on attributes and attribute values attached to your data. So, well, I was planning to build this in front of you, but it looks like it saved my previous selections, unfortunately. But so what you would do is you'd come in and you'd pick which master data type you want to be pulling from, and then you can select which attribute value you want the start of the horizon to be at, and then which attribute you want the end of the horizon to be at. And so it'll pull that the values from your data, and you can have frozen horizons that are varying, even based on the product for each key figure, which is really impressive for them to do. So then I'll go back into my PowerPoint and show you a sample of what this might look like in the actual system. So this is another kind of screenshot of pulling from the SAP slideshow, but you can see that you can create these different key figures that will allow you to edit it in different time ranges, so that if a planner is working on a plan, they can work on this key figure, but they can't touch that, or they can't work on it in whatever horizon is defined. And this, as I mentioned, this is also really controlled by permission filters, so different planners can have different restrictions on when they can edit certain key figures and others. I would like to show this to you in the actual Excel UI, but my permission filters allow me to edit at all levels, so I wasn't able to demonstrate this well for you, but hopefully this explanation and screenshot kind of does it justice. Now I want to touch on some ABC XYZ segmentation upgrades. There's really two big hitters here that I wanted to touch on. One is a new best fit forecasting model, and other is k-mean segmentation for ABC and XYZ. So the first one, which I'm not going to go into too much, but they just released a new best fit forecast model for ABC segmentation. So what this means is that your forecast can actually choose different forecasting methods based on the segmentation values. So historically, when you'd run a best fit forecast, it would choose the same model for all of your data across all segments A, B, or C. Now, what they've introduced is a model that will actually select a different best fit forecasting method for those C products, because we know that the C products are C products for a reason. They're not in nature, they're not the same as an A or a B product is. They're often lower volume, maybe less frequent in ordering, and so they deserve to be forecasted differently as well. So this is a great upgrade from SAP in my mind, that can help out a lot. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, geez, I don't even have ABC segmentation, how would I do that? There's another upgrade that they just came out with where they're using k-means to define your ABC segmentation, which I think is a great upgrade and a good segue into discussing that. So historically, you would want to define, or you would have to define your ABC segmentation based on prescriptive thresholds that you define. So your A products are your top 70% of revenue, your B products are the next 20%, C products are your bottom 10% of revenue, for example. Now what SAP has released is using k-means as an algorithm that will determine these thresholds for you. So it will go through and parse through your data and push the products into different groups based on their sales history or however you want to define it to create this segmentation for you. So this is great because a lot of companies are working on what I'll call tribal knowledge, or this is how we've always done it when it comes to segmentation. And a lot of times, that's really close or even spot on, but for a lot of companies, there's room for improvement. So this is a great way for you to kind of change that analysis and look to maybe plan your segments a bit differently. So just for kind of a visualization. Oh, yep.
Sorry about that, Connor. It looks like we have another question.
Sure.
Can you use k-means together with existing ABC XYZ, or are they mutually exclusive?
That's a great question. So there's two different ways that you can go with this. When you're creating the k-means segmentation here, maybe I can even show you this. Let's pull this down. So what I'm going to get at is that you can use your segmentation profile to kind of spit out the segment value into an attribute in your master data. And so there's two different ways that you could go about it if you wanted to incorporate k-means. One is that you could have your the results of the k-means segmentation. It could override your existing ABC segmentation, or another option is that you could potentially create custom attributes that store a new value for this ABC code in it, and then you could use that attribute as an input for your analysis that you otherwise would have had the ABC code as an input for. So that's an interesting question that I actually hadn't really thought about, but yeah, I guess that's my initial answer, is that you could really possibly go either way. I hope that answers your question. Sorry, I didn't get to showing it to you, but here's just in case you don't really, if you've forgotten your stats class from many years ago, here's just a kind of a basic visualization of what k-means does. It takes your group of data and it goes through and finds middle points with data clustered around it within the data. So this would go through and delineate your products and pull them into groups, kind of like this visualization is doing here. And so just for an example, I ran the k-means on our own system, and you can see the before and after. I know it's kind of hard to make sense of all these numbers and letters and stuff, but this screenshot on the left is showing what our original segmentation was based on those hard-coded thresholds. And then after I ran the segmentation based on k-means, we had a lot of them stayed the same, which proves that we weren't far off in terms of our thresholds. But we did have a couple of products that changed their segmentation values. So not saying that this is what you have to do, but definitely a great option to kind of look into and reevaluate how you're working with segmentation. Okay. Oh, this slide is on coverage. This is actually something I believe my colleague Levi is going to discuss later, so I'll hop right over that one. But now I want to talk about some of the features that they've added to the Excel add-in that kind of enhance usability for the end user. So the first one is key figure grouping. So this is a new feature that, you know, I don't know if we really need it, but I think it's kind of cool, and then definitely could stand to increase efficiency when you're working in the Excel UI. But so what they've created is the ability for you to define a group of key figures in the web application. So then when you're in the Excel user interface, you can open up this key figure groups, and you're building a planning view. You can click the key figure group, and it'll only show the key figures that are in that group, so that you can kind of select what you want to work with faster. So I'll show you how you would configure this. It's really quite simple. There is a key figure group application. So you'd come in here, and I've already clicked new, but I'll click cancel so you can see where. I don't know what's. Sorry, I have. Yeah, let's discard these changes. Yep. So now you're in here. You can click create to create a new key figure group. I'll just call this test. It's test. We'll put it in our SCM demo, and I'll put it in for the Excel add-in. And so now what I can do, well, it's a little bit annoying. You actually have to create it first. And now once it's been created, I can add key figures into this. So I can just, what is happening? Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, I'll create a filter so I can only show the SCM demo. So now this is only showing key figures from the SCM demo, so you can use this to create key figure groups across planning areas as well. But so, for example, if I wanted to, let's just add capacity supply, and I'll add one more. Just what happened? There's no key figure that has been added. Okay, well, you get the point of how it's made. I've already made one of called consensus demand. And so this one has a group of key figures that you might use in defining your consensus demand. I don't know why it's showing that there's none in here, but if we go in the Excel UI, we wanted to edit the view, I come over to key figures. So normally you would have this long list of a ton of different key figures in here. But if I uncheck all the unassigned ones and I only want to look at key figures that are relevant to consensus demand, I have this nice slimmed down list, and I can pick which ones I want to include from here in my planning view. So that's a nice simple little feature that SAP has added. Nothing too crazy, but might add a little bit of functionality for you. Another thing that they've added in the Excel UI is they've added a couple of ways to refine your searches. So there's a match case functionality, so any of your search can be case sensitive. And then there's also a match whole words, so that anything in your search has to match pretty much exactly what you typed. So another thing where maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't, but just another thing to call out. Let's see, what did I want to show next? Yep, there's the improved search. Oh yeah, the end user guide. So this one's great if you guys have planners that are new to the tool, or if you're new to the tool yourself, and you're kind of struggling, not really sure what to do. SAP has created an end user guide that kind of walks you through how to use IBP. And historically, it was a little bit hard to find, but now they have it right here in the help section. Instead of opening IBP help and searching through pages of documentation for the answer that you need, you can just click here and open up the end user guide based on the version that you're working on. So for example, you open up the 2105 help user guide, and if it loads, it's a bit of a bigger file because there's a ton of information in there, but I guess that's good when you're working with a user guide. You want a ton of information in there. So yeah, I think you can imagine well, I'll wait, it looks like it's loaded. Yep, and so in here you can see there's, what, I don't know, 200, 300, nearly 400 slides of documentation and help for all the way from, you know, getting started with the Excel add-in, how to create a connection and log on, all the way to, I don't know, topics like disaggregation and yeah, read and write permissions. So really helpful that they have this all very easily accessible from the Excel UI. And then one more thing that I wanted to show you before I pass it off to Levi is the new change history analysis app. So I'm sure some of you have key figures that are enabled with change history in your planning area, but if you don't, it's a feature that allows you to see or allows you to like hold previous versions of your key figure that so if there's any changes, you can see what changed and how. Now they've made it a lot easier with a new app that provides analysis of this data. And so I'll just make a change in this. Let's do it in this one. We'll change this to 5,000 or something. Now, if I go and save this off, you can provide a reason code. I'll say downside, we'll think like sales decreased. And I save this off. So, you know, it saves as expected. But if we go into the web UI, there's this new change history analysis app that shows you any of these changes that you've made based on, you can filter it down to what key figure you want to look at, what attributes, what time periods would it have been changed in. And then what I think is probably the most important is you can filter it based on when the change actually occurred. So you can see, you know, was this something that we made last night, or was this like a change that was made 3 months ago? So, and then once it actually pulls up the changes, you can see what the old value is, what the new value is, the empirical difference, and also a percent change. And then you can also have the reason code is in here too. So this is a great one for helping planners figure out why their numbers maybe aren't looking the way that they are. I think we've all had times where you're like, wait, what happened here? I thought this plan was this, and now it's this. Now it's that. So this app is just an effort by SAP to make it a lot easier for you to kind of keep that visibility and traceability in your supply chain, which is a lot of the benefit of IBP, right? Is expanding that visibility. So this is just another feature that helps that out. So I will pass. That's all that I have for you guys today. I will pass it over to Levi to pick it up with some of his favorite features.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, Levi.
My name is Levi Mart here for SCMC, and I'm going to be walking through a few different features with you guys today. I'm going to walk through a little bit of kind of what's upcoming as far as extensibility development. I'm going to walk through product life cycles, a little bit of new functionality regarding coverage, and then I'll also be walking through the new procedure playbook functionality. All right. So as far as extensibility development, moving forward, SAP is really pushing towards the import and export software collection tiles in Fiori. in the past, it's been transport model entities, and they're dumping a lot into enhancing kind of what you can do with this. So moving forward, they're going to be working, they're going to send out emails, and they're going to plan with your IT team as far as enabling your landscape so that you can get this new functionality. If you don't have Extensibility Development enabled, then you can continue using Transport Model Entities app for the time being. All right. So one of the new things that SAP added with the Managed Product Lifecycles app is that now you have the ability to actually manually forecast. So I will switch tabs here. All right. So here we have a product assignment set up in the Managed Product Lifecycle app. And if we go here to edit, so there's now this checkbox here. So you can either not use it and continue, or you can enable this. And you set a base unit of measure here. And then you can set the periodicity that you're actually planning at. So whether that's day, week, month, quarter, whatever, you can set that there. And then when you go in to actually add a dimension, so we'll just pick a random customer here. So now you can set base values. So you can do this, set a trend value, we'll set that. You can select a fee coefficient, and you can also set seasonality curves. So you can add as many of these as you want in here, which is pretty cool. And we'll switch back to this. Another cool thing that they've added is that you can actually create planning objects now for your new product introduction. It makes it a little bit easier because you no longer have to go into the Excel add-in in order to do so. So if you go back here and we back up, so you can now select as many of these as you want, go over here to planning object actions, and you can create planning objects and download check results and stuff like that. Right. So here is new functionality regarding the IBP coverage function. So this is going to be something that lives in your calculated key figures, and IBP coverage has been around for a little while, and usually traditionally it's been used for periods of supply, but now you can basically set it up to calculate your projected stock. And the way that you do that is, if we go here, so there's a really helpful page that SAP provided that really walks you through what some of the parameters are and how to set it up. So this will walk you through step by step how to basically configure it to calculate your projected stock. So as far as what the parameters are, so for instance, this one, you have a couple options. You can either use a key figure that you'll have to create. This is not a part of base Unipa, so this will be something you make. But you can either calculate based off of this key figure, or you can also just do basically an integer if you want to simplify it a little bit. So this is laid out for all of the mandatory parameters as well as your optional parameters. And it'll kind of give you an example of what you need and then maybe some troubleshooting so that you can walk through that. All right, so that covers all of that. So if we come back here, this is kind of an interesting new feature that I think will apply quite nicely to perhaps like an S&OP process. So there is a new tile called Procedure Playbooks. And what you can do is you can create these playbooks. And in them you can have activities that you can define. So for instance, this one is just for demonstration purposes, it's SAP IBP help. So maybe you have something that pops up in an alert that's a big deal and you want somebody to be able to read it, then you can have this. And what it'll do is it'll pop up with the SAP help link that corresponds with whatever you want to set it to. So then you go into your custom alert definitions. And if we scroll down here, we now have the ability to add these procedure playbooks. So you can add, I believe, however many you want. But so I went ahead and added this one to this custom alert definition and then subscribe to that. And so what that's going to look like is if you go into monitor custom alerts, and you can filter it out by whichever one you want. So we'll select this one. If we are viewing the alert, there is now this little tab here for procedure playbooks. And if we click on that, so in the alert itself, if we click on this, it'll now take us to the specified URL, which I just set as procedure playbooks. So I think that's definitely, I'm pretty excited about this because I think this will really help organizations with SNOP, or maybe if you have a newer employee that's still kind of getting used to something, you can put a link to documentation in there so that they can just go straight from the alert and read maybe how to resolve it. And that is what I have planned for today. Do we have any questions?
One question on the playbook I had, Levi.
Okay.
People might be wondering, are there best practices in here, or are all of those playbooks going to be something that the client would create and design on their own, or are there starting points?
It's definitely, I feel like, very client specific. It can be tailored to any wide variety of needs.
Yeah, I'll chime in on that one. The playbook is really meant for clients to be able to, define the solutions to any of their alerts or problems that they're facing directly in the UI. And so, yeah, clients would have to define these procedures on their own and create the playbook on their own. It's not really an SAP kind of best practice
It's not
thing,
the best practice.
but yeah, but you can include links to the documentation that SAP has created for help on an error or anything like that. You just have to kind of go out and find that to create the playbook yourself.
Yeah, it's just something to consider, right? That it's not a feature that can be just enabled. It's something that everybody will have to put some effort into so that they agree what that is, right?
Yeah.
Correct. This is one of those SAP upgrades where it just adds the functionality. It doesn't necessarily set it up for you. Some of the upgrade stuff just comes through and it's automatically enabled. This requires some setup.
Yeah, the structure's there, but the actual procedure takes some effort. No, good point.
If that's all,
anything else you had, or just questions from the group?
Yeah, I have one more thing that I'd like to call out, Mike.
Go for it.
Really quick. This is kind of a silly one, but SAP is changing their browser compatibility requirements. And so beginning in the 2108 upgrade, users will no longer be able to use Internet Explorer. So I just wanted to get that on people's radars that, I'm not sure how many people are still using Internet Explorer, but if you are, or if people in your organization are, you're going to have to come up with a new browser to use, like Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, or Mozilla Firefox. Any of those will work, but no more Explorer.
And
that's a good call.
One other thing that I'd like to tack onto that as well is that also with 2108 moving forward, there will be a required update for Microsoft Edge to work, which is kind of a two-part thing. It'll require a newer version of the .NET framework for Windows, as well as an upgrade to Edge View.
Yeah, and so like we said, these are both for 2108, but good thing to just kind of keep on the horizon so that it's not a surprise when that comes out in 3 months. You're not, locked out of the system.
Details. Cool. All right. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Any other questions people have or things that they've experienced that we want to address? But I think this hit the highlights. So I do appreciate it. Give just one more minute for questions. Either raise your hand or type it in. But we really do appreciate everybody's attention. I know it's I joked about it earlier, but attending webinars is a necessary evil these days, and I do appreciate everybody sharing your time with us and your attention. Looks like we don't really have any questions at the moment, so I'll just say thanks again. Feel free to reach out to us. We're easy to find on LinkedIn, on our homepage, scmconnections.com, or just emails as well, which you should have from this. But anyway, thanks everybody for spending time with us today. We'll email out the recording and as well. And with that, anything else, guys, before we sign off?
I don't think so. Thanks for your time, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Connor. Thanks, Levi. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.